There is a lot of debate on Reddit as to what are the best juggling balls to get you started with bounce juggling. Today, I'm going to let you see with your own eyes how these options compare. By the end of this video, you'll have all the information you need to buy the best juggling balls for you. Welcome to Juggling Gym, where my goal is to help you learn how to juggle and have fun doing it. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone who's watching the video and everyone who's already subscribed to the channel. If you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, you can just click right here and you'll never miss another juggling video from me. Bounce juggling is a type of juggling where you throw the balls on the ground instead of tossing them in the air. Bounce juggling balls obviously need to be really bouncy, so you can't use just anything to start bounce juggling. That's why there's no DIY tutorial for bounce juggling balls. Instead, I want to compare the cheap options that people normally recommend for bounce juggling balls. And after looking at Reddit, it seems like those are tennis balls, racket balls, and lacrosse balls. First, I'm going to find which of those three is the best cheap bounce juggling ball option, and then I'm going to compare it to the juggling balls I actually use for bounce juggling, G-Force balls by Play. Also, I wanted to note that there's one other type of juggling ball that will not be covered in this video, and that is a silicone bounce juggling ball. The reason they're not going to be included in this video is because they're $35 to $40 each, which is definitely outside of my price range. A lot of jugglers say that silicone balls are amazing. Of course, if you're just getting started with bounce juggling, I feel like this probably wouldn't be what you would go for. But if you have the money and that's something that you're interested in buying, I would encourage you to do your own research and see if that's a good option for you. I'm going to be judging the bounce juggling balls based on the following criteria. The first thing is bounciness. Obviously, this is the most important factor with the bounce juggling ball, so that's going to be most of the focus of today's video. The next important factor is size. The ball should be big enough to where it's easy for me to catch, but it shouldn't be so big that it's hard for me to catch two in one hand at the end of the pattern. Another important factor is weight. The ball shouldn't be too heavy and it shouldn't be too light. The last factor is the price of the ball. I'm going to compare how much value you get for the ball based on how much it costs. Personally, my prediction is that the racket balls will be the best cheap juggling ball that you can use, but the G-Force balls will still be better than the racket balls. I just went to Dick's Sporting Goods and I bought brand new versions of all these balls so we can have a fair comparison. First, we have tennis balls. We also have ballistic racket balls, Ballistic 2.0. Lastly, we have lacrosse balls, and these are the Dick's Sporting Goods brand of lacrosse balls. We're going to start by evaluating how bouncy all of these juggling balls are. There are two different types of bounce juggling. In lift bounce, you throw the ball slightly up in the air and then it hits the floor and bounces back up. And in force bounce, you actively throw it against the ground. In this test, I'm going to do a force bounce cascade with each ball, and I'm going to see how hard I need to throw. Force bounce with tennis balls. Okay, wow, that is bad. Okay, I don't know how people bounce juggle with this. Let's try again. Let me throw them harder. Okay, there we go. Wow. Okay, that feels more reasonable. There we go, not bad. Last, we have lacrosse balls. Lacrosse balls were also pretty good. To do a lift bounce cascade, the balls need to be pretty bouncy because you aren't throwing them to the ground with a lot of force. Now it's time to do lift bounce with tennis balls. Not really sure this is gonna work. Nope. Okay, it's not pretty, but there is a lift bounce. Okay, yeah, much more doable. If I could throw them correctly. Now I'm going to talk about some of the other factors that I mentioned. These were really hard to juggle. I'm not really sure why people use these to bounce juggle or how they even get it to work. They're hard to catch, they don't bounce very high. It's just overall, I would not recommend using these for bounce juggling. Next, we have the racket balls. These are pretty bouncy, which I liked. Overall, I'd say racket balls are okay if you want to learn how to bounce juggle, but it's going to be a little bit lighter and smaller than you would probably like. Lastly, let's talk about the lacrosse balls. These were actually pretty good for bounce juggling. They're pretty bouncy, they feel like the right weight for bounce juggling. You can see that they're right about the right size for bounce juggling. I think that the best juggling ball that wasn't specifically made for bounce juggling is definitely these lacrosse balls. You should note that they might vary depending on what brand you get. Now let's see how the lacrosse balls compare to my actual G-Force juggling balls. when I do the lacrosse balls right after the G-force, I'm noticing how I have to, you know, put a little more force into it. Even my lift bounce, I have to throw it higher in the air. And then with the force bounce, yeah, I think it's less noticeable with the force bounce, but there's still, like, I have to use a little bit more effort because it's just not as bouncy. Next, I wanted to see how the lacrosse balls and G-force balls compare when I juggle them outside. Yeah, you can really see it on a imperfect surface. And that was just my fault. And again, it's not as noticeable with force bounce, but it's still slightly noticeable. Another thing I wanted to note is that the lacrosse ball feels a little bit more grimy than the G-force ball. Basically, I think that more of the dirt that was on the ground stuck to the lacrosse ball in comparison to the G-force ball. Now it's time to talk about if I recommend the lacrosse balls or the G-force balls. And the answer is, it honestly depends. If you've never juggled before and you aren't sure if you're gonna even like bounce juggling, lacrosse balls might be a good option. They were $2.99 each. I think they're normally $3.99, but they're on sale. But if you already like juggling, then that probably means you'll like bounce juggling. It's basically the same thing, but you're just throwing it at the ground. You're probably gonna end up not being satisfied with lacrosse balls. Like, it's fine for basic patterns, but I'm sure that the lack of bounciness will really show up, you know, when you're doing 4 balls or 5 balls or different tricks, and you're gonna really want the fancier ball. So with that, I would say get the G-force balls. The G-force balls are about $10 to $12 each, which is, you know, pretty good relatively for a juggling prop. Also, they last a really long time. I've used mine indoors and outdoors. I bought them used and they're still good, and I've had them for 2 years. But of course, it's all up to you. Make the best decision for you. If you like this type of video and you want to see more prop comparisons, let me know and maybe I can do some more of them. Next week, I'm going to show you how to get started with bounce juggling. Keep practicing and have fun.